Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, and welcome to the program. It's Thursday, and it's still sunny, but I understand that's going to change. Winter is going to make a last gasp return to annoy us all and remind us of what should be as opposed to what is. Anyway, good to be here with you. I was speaking yesterday a bit about my love for language, my love of words, and understanding how important words are. It's why we're battling about them. Why it's such fertile ground to create division. And I was reading a magazine last night, the weekly compilation magazine, The Week. And one of the things I love about it is this column in which they pull quotations from various publications in the U.S. in the last week, quotations from usually historical figures. And there was one that really caught my eye from Hannah Arendt. This was actually in the London Review of Books. And I'll read it to you. The fact that man is capable of action means that the unexpected can be expected from him, that he is able to perform what is infinitely improbable. Wow. I mean, that is extremely powerful, speaking to what the power that a man has. My first reaction was that the he and the him and the his and the man hit me, and that it was this ingenious woman, Hannah Arendt, who was writing about not men. She was writing about human beings, about us. But in the way words and language were used when she wrote it, he was the pronoun that was used to denote us all. But any girl reading that quote did not feel included, I can assure you. And it hit me more than it's hit me in some time, of how language and the language we grew up with, all of us, gave men, the masculine, so much power and erased us. And if you suggested, as happened, that this was exclusionary, you were told, oh, come on, everybody knows that we're talking about humanity. There it is again, humanity. It's all of us. But it occurred to me how easy it would have been. And it wasn't the way that words were used up until very recently. And in fact, the damage that has been done by this language, these words, this masculinization of literally everything is hard to imagine. I mean, just on a personal level, it never occurred to me, ever, nor did anybody suggest otherwise, that I was good for anything except being a wife. God forbid if I had to have a job. They were very limited, right? women, girls were not given a sense that they had anything to offer out there in the real world. And when you think of all the brilliance that was lost because of that. So here's this brilliant woman who somehow managed to get through and be listened to in a time when women were just truly marginalized. And yet she had to speak in this masculinized way, as if she were speaking only of men. He, him, his. And then it reminded me of what the Episcopal Church is apparently doing. They're looking into how to make the language that they use during worship more inclusive, not letting he, him for God. The fact that God is a man. All religions, not all. I don't know about all. I know Judaism. I don't know about Judaism. I know about Christianity clearly suggests that God has no gender. But, of course, we give him the him, he. And we think of him as he, masculine. You can't use words and not have them have this kind of impact. So the fact that man is capable of action means that the unexpected can be expected from him, that he's able to perform what is infinitely improbable. I mean, what a woof for a young person to hear something like that and think, I can act, I am capable, I can do it. A boy reading that might have had this rush of sense of possibility and power. But it never occurred to Hannah Arendt. Oh, shut the fuck up. To simply say, if you didn't hear that, it's my phone's ringing. I'm sorry. But if we did not have this total patriarchal culture that we've all grown up in, and we're still suffering the results of, she would have written the fact that we are capable. The fact that we are capable. You don't need a new word. You just need, I hate to say it, to change the pronoun. The fact that we are capable of action means that the unexpected can be expected from us. That we are able to perform what is infinitely improbable. Now, if I had read that, I would have felt she was including me, truly. And there's no way men can, even the most empathic of men can understand what that language, what our language did to us, girls and women. And I don't know, it just hit me last night, man. Wow. So there was that. And the other reason I just love this column in The Week, Wit and Wisdom, it's titled, is right under that is a quote from, I don't know, some historian with a strange name, who was quoted in a publication called Pharmacy Times. It's not a publication that I suspect any of us read unless you're a pharmacist. But this too is so true. A luxury, once enjoyed, becomes a necessity. And think of that. Think of the things we think of as necessities today that we lived perfectly well without for much of our lives. I mean, the list is endless. The list is endless. A luxury once enjoyed. It's true. Once you enjoy, once you experience something that either makes something easier, that's usually it. Easier, faster, whatever. Yeah. How did we live without that? The panic we feel when maybe we realize that we've left the house and we don't have our phone. I lived the majority of my life leaving the house without a phone because a phone was at home. It didn't go with you. And it was amazing how we did, we lived, we thrived. And as we look now, we were probably in many ways better off. But so those are these two little snippets that I bumped into last night that I wanted to share with you. I'm an obituary nut, right? By the way, the obits, I mean, I have to tell you, the obits, there's still so many young people dying. You see a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, and you can just see that it's opioids or suicide or who the hell knows, but it ain't good. And I've said that an obituary, I'm drawn to them because they're little stories. I mean, at their best, they're really good stories. A look into a life lived. Now, when you think of your own life, my God, condensing it down into a few inches in a newspaper obit column, that's a daunting task. And obviously very few people do it well. But there are, professional obituary writers, and one of them, a guy named James Haggerty, has written a book called Yours Truly, an obituary writer's guide to telling your story. So this is a book in which he tells us how to write a great obit, including your own. Now, I recall that one of our listeners a few years ago did write his own obituary, worried about wanting control of it, I guess. And it was wonderful. I thought it was wonderful, but what a daunting task. I don't know that I would try it. For one thing, it involves introspection, self-awareness, and truly thinking of yourself as done. And none of those things come easily to most of us. But this guy in the book, and it sounds like a great book because he obviously, the book is full of what he considers extraordinary obituaries of famous people, of people you never heard of, infamous people, heroic people, funny ones, whatever. So again, the book is called Yours Truly by James Haggerty, if you're interested. And if you've ever entertained the possibility of penning your own. One of the things that he says is there are three questions. Three questions you have to ask yourself before you start. And each one of them can send you into, I don't know, God. Okay, here they are. One, what were you trying to do with your life? I'm just going to let that, the silence is I'm letting you sit with that for a second. What were you trying to do with your life? The second question, why? And the third, and how did it work out? Wow. Whoa. Sit with those for a while, really sit and try to answer. And it would not be something you could like, oh yeah, I could answer those 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm done. No, yeah, I don't think many of us could. I know I can't. For one thing, I've always said that I've never had any goals in my life. I never have. I'm not a goal-oriented person. I'm not rule-oriented. I'm just sort of, I always pictured myself as somebody who just let life take me. And I've always marveled at people who took control of their lives. I never had a sense that I did. Which may or may not be true, because I think the stories we tell ourselves about who we are often, fables. They're, personal mythology as much as they are truth. The way we see ourselves as opposed to the way others see us. I mean, I don't know. But I do want a good obit. And I once did something terrible to a dear friend and said to her, when I'm dead, I want you to write the obit. And she looked like what? And I've thought about it many times, and it's an unfair thing to do. It ain't easy. What were you trying to do with your life? I mean, just get through it. Just not screw up too badly. Just not do much damage to myself or others. I don't know. What were you trying to do? I suspect a lot of people, I don't know. Well, again, as I said, there are people who really, with those goals, that had a idea of what they were wanting to do, but I can't quite relate to that. How did it work out? And that's, oh God, I don't know. And then the one other thing that he says, I don't have the book. I'm getting this from a little snippet of a review of the book. And he does say this: your life story, by the way, is not a nomination for sainthood. And, it's one of my gripes about the obits and the ones I read. My God, every dead person turned out to be somebody who lit up the room. You read these things and you think, where were they? Where are all these people? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people reading some of these obits would say, really? And then there's the obits that do nothing but sort of list, this cold, went to this school, got this award, worked here, worked there, blah, 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 blah. Those are, I don't know, those are not interesting. Let's just put it that way. That's not what a good obit is about. A good obit is about leaving people with a sense of a person, a true person, and that ain't a saint. Which is why the ones that we do tend to share, like, hey, do you see this? are ones that are more honest and often let you laugh. So he points out one that he thought was really good. And it was written by, just a guy about his mother. Her name was Margaret Marilyn Deader. And this is just one of the sentences he said. Marilyn loved all children who weren't her own, and loved her own children relative to how clean-shaven they were. Now, see, that's wonderful. And it is, he's laughing when he writes it. There's love in it. And he is giving us a sense of of his mom that's not unlike a lot of moms, right? Anyway, so I'm leaving you with those questions. What were you trying to do? What were you trying to do with your life? Okay, we have a caller. Somebody going to tell us? Jeez, hello.
Hello. I'm just trying to deal with the burden of all the pressure from all the possibilities I have on my shoulders since I'm a white male in our society. It's tough.
Are you kidding? Yes.
Yes, I'm kidding. I completely agree. Well, no, I'm like you in that I'm kind of directionless most of my life. I mean, not like I'm a loser or anything, but it's just like I'm a very different person from my wife. She has specific goals, things she wants to accomplish, and I'm a great helper. And we attain these things. But I don't sit back and I want to do this or I want to do that. And I'm not sure why. I mean, I've always been gainfully employed. I mean, even the job I have, I fell into, and it's provided well for me and my family, and bought us helped us buy homes and stuff like that. So it's. So I don't know what my obituary. Right during my obituary would be really bizarre. But you had said that you had talked to a good friend of yours that you asked them to write your obituary.
Yes, I asked them to. Yes, I didn't ask. I think I told them. I want you. I sort of assigned them, which in retrospect was not a nice thing to do. Yeah.
But you know what? And I guess we're all different. When my dad died, I wrote his obituary, and I found it very therapeutic.
Yes.
And I experienced the same thing with a couple of good friends of ours and my father-in-law. I didn't write this directly, but my wife and I sat down and worked on it because of, and so I don't think it's a terrible burden you're putting on your friend. Maybe she's he or she's different than I am.
No, I chose her because she knows me, and because she's a really good writer. But I have a lot of friends who are really good writers. I don't know why I did that to her that day, but I've got to retract it. I really do. It's not a good thing to do. I probably read a really lousy obit that day and was thinking, "Geez, that can't happen to me."
So you burdened her and you offended your other friends. It sounds like.
Yes, that's true because I have so many who are great writers. But I don't know, but I really agree with you about it's difficult, but ultimately extremely satisfying to sit and write for instance, like I did too, my father's obituary. Sort of a final act of love. But it's hard. It's really hard.
I know.
And I think it's hard because it requires us to be honest in a way that we often don't want to be. And that's why it would be I can't imagine writing my own, but I might give it a shot. I might, even just thinking about it, how I would want people to know me. When I saw that question, that first question that he asks is, what were you trying to do with your life? I mean, that's not a question I don't think any of us have ever asked ourselves, right? What were you trying to do with your life? And the first thing I came up with was make people laugh.
Mm. Wow.
That's the first thing that hit me. I get no greater pleasure than making people laugh. But if you dig deeper into that, there's all kinds of other reasons for that and says things about me, whatever. But I don't think that that's something that, that's not an answer that most people, I think, would give, but I don't know. I think a lot of people might say wanting to make people happy, wanting not to. I also think, wanting not to make the world a worse place. Not who is it? I think Thoreau or somebody had this, or one of those guys had something about that. If you have in any way, done something that, even by growing a garden, making the world better than it was, a little plot of land, you have lived successfully. Now, I think he's too easy a grader, but I mean, that is the idea, that just don't make things worse for those around you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I want to say, but I think the real thing, just making people happy, helping others, that is where we need to go. And whether that's trying to save lives or just trying to make people not be so miserable, without creating any type of codependency, which is impossible to do, but trying. I mean, there's a very psychological, psychology plays a very big part. You like to make people laugh. I like to make people laugh. And why are we being such pleasers? Some people would look at us.
Well, that's
what's
right. wrong with you?
And I guess
right, exactly. A lot of people would say, well, that shows that you, whatever. It was fine. We come in all, thank God, we come in all sizes, styles, needs, and, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with being somebody who wants to make people laugh. Thank God there's people who do. Where would we be without it? And if it's because there's something a little
too
twisted.
Deep all the time.
Yeah. It's just whatever. I mean, you can, if you're going to your shrink, you go into, why do I need to make people laugh or, make everybody happy? And then that is actually why I tend to be sort of a loner, in that it's a burden. I can't, it's hard for me to relax around people. I think I'm responsible. If I go to a party and there's one person there looking like not happy, I think I gotta, and that's hard. So then it becomes sort of almost like work. Who knows? But that's my mishigas. That's my craziness.
If it fills you, and if you make a difference, you're not pissing off the person.
Good. It makes me feel so good. if I can make people laugh. So thank you, Roger.
All right.
Thank you.
It's nice talking with you. Have a good day and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. I hope so.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Michael from the Cynic says, relax. You can just have chatbot AI write your obit. And for that matter, it can even do an interview with you after you're dead. Or after your demise, as he said. Yeah, that too. Oh, yeah, they will be doing obits, won't they? Jesus. Oh, man. Hey, headline in today's New York Times. This is the lead story. What did it say? I remember I laughed when I saw it. It's not that it's funny. Louisville police rife with abuse, pattern of discrimination. Well, I said, duh. I mean, what my thought was, Louisville police? Yeah, you could take that Louisville right out of there and stick any town and city in this country, right? I feel that that's true. There's a hierarchy of abusive police departments, but in general, the way we do policing is an abusive system for far, far, far too many. Rife with abuse, the Justice Department says. Hey, Merrick Garland, sir, won't come as a surprise to you. You could look at any department. They don't have to first go in and shoot Breonna Taylor to get your attention. I am telling you, that is true of any police department. Oh, here's a good, even though Twitter's gone, every once in a while I still find something on it that's not bad. That's actually, it's what used to be there so much. There was so much there all the time for me. And it's rare now. But here's one, and it's again about, I get something we were talking about yesterday about Fox News. Fox News. Excuse me. I said I would never use those two words together again. Fox, as it's not news. This guy wrote, the real question is, and this is troublesome, and it's troublesome because of something called the First Amendment. That pesky damn First Amendment and the abuse of it. The real question is, why is a propaganda network, that's what it is, it's not a news network, why is a propaganda network that accumulates money and power by lying to its viewers and undermining our national security by recycling Russian propaganda permitted to operate as a news organization? Why are propaganda networks owned by Australians? He became a U.S. citizen. Unfortunately, Rupert Murdoch is now one of us. By Australians like Fox and Sky, promulgating fascist Russian propaganda permitted to operate in the United States of America. Why are representatives of these propaganda networks allowed to participate in press briefings as if they were bona fide news organizations? Why don't actual news organizations make this a bigger headline? I concur. If these propaganda networks were operating during Watergate, this guy says, Nixon would probably still be president. Think about that. That is true. Everything would be different if Fox were there. And in that regard, I happened upon an interesting opinion piece in the Washington Post by Greg Sargent about the fact that the right has had this, as usual, they play a long game. They have been demonizing government and demonizing the press and media for almost as long as I can remember. And he specifically points out that Nixon was, even before they, Watergate and all of that, when he really saw them as the enemy, he headed an administration that went after media. And his attack dog was his first vice president, who ended up, of course, as so many Republican office holders do, in jail. That would be Spiro Agnew, for those of you who might be trying to forget him. But do you remember that Spiro Agnew thing? He doesn't quote it here, but I could never forget it. It's an alliterative monster. He went around talking about the nattering nabobs of negativism. Good God. That was the media. But Agnew and others were set loose to do these, what Sargent calls snarling speeches, attacking the television networks, which were at that point really becoming more powerful in questioning and by covering the Vietnam War, by showing people what was really happening, and Nixon didn't want it. So the right wing's efforts to sow mistrust of bona fide news operations has been going on for a long, long time. And Fox didn't come along till the 90s. And Fox, wow. But before Fox, what helped get us where we are was AM radio, where I worked for much of my life. AM radio and talk radio. That's when Americans driving in their cars got a steady stream of vitriol, ugliness, and right-wing propaganda with no need to pretend it was news, because talk radio was not news. It's talk, opinion, whatever. But the average listener didn't really make that delineation. It was somebody who had a microphone and seemed to be telling them what was going on. So Roger Ailes, Rush Limbaugh, all of the pretenders that came after, they led us to where we are now. They created this monster of a sizable percentage of the American populace that now insists on being told a pack of lies, that insists on being told what it wants to hear. The truth? Be damned. And that's where we are. Frightening. We see how frightening it is and how potentially harmful to the republic itself. So, yike. You know, I also saw, I'm sorry, I'm changing subject. I do this on Thursdays when I know I'm not going to talk to you for another few days, so I just, throw everything in. But I saw this other headline today, I think this was from The Guardian, that was headlined, "The Worst Places to Live for Air Pollution in the United States." And I assumed Pittsburgh would be at the top. We're not even on it. I kid you not. We're not even on it. Chicago's on it. Parts of Chicago. The story made clear that when you look at where the worst pollution is, it is often around major cities. But in the parts where minorities live, poor people live, that there is segregation by fine particulate pollution. Just like what's going on, in the Mon Valley with these alerts coming out from the National Weather Service every 5 seconds, it seems, that you shouldn't go out and breathe in Clairton. Well, Clairton ain't exactly, where the upper middle class lives. So it was fascinating to read that sort of more political take. Now, the only part of it did mention Pennsylvania. It mentioned central Pennsylvania. And this was where it deviated from, it's usually in surrounding Atlanta, surrounding St. Louis, LA. Bakersfield was, by the way, number one, California, which seems like an idyllic, beautiful spot. But it's the geology there. It's the geography there, the mountains and stuff that trap it. Anyway, but Pennsylvania, central PA made the list, which they noted was like 85%, 90% white, and was the outlier. But that's because of, I guess, the factories, manufacturing, and just Pennsylvania's love for, being the one that says, "Oh, what do you want? You want us to manufacture plastics? You want us to, we'll do it. Jobs." And so, yeah. But I was strangely offended that we weren't on the list. Oh, another funny thing I saw, the Russians are are engaging in war crimes left, right, and center, horrifying things that they're doing in Ukraine, kidnapping children, adopting, and then putting them in, letting Russian people adopt kids who they just grabbed and took. It's hard to imagine. And then, making a point clearly of bombing where civilians are, schools, hospitals, shooting people who are handcuffed and blindfolded. I mean, they just one more crime after another. So there is a real effort to document all this and take Russia to the International Criminal Court. Guess who's against it? Our Department of Defense. Guess what the reason is? Yeah. The reason is, well, if we, some of the stuff that we did in Iraq and Afghanistan, wasn't exactly up to snuff when it came to the way you're supposed to do a war civilly. And so they're fearful. They're saying, no, this is going to set precedents that are going to hamstring us in the future. Oh, man. Just another one that made me, laugh. Ha, ha. Rueful laughter. I was blown away by this. This came in, again, that magazine, The Week. It talks about a group of people who, are surfers, big, heavy-duty surfers, and they're surfing in the Midwest. And I thought, what? Well, they're surfing on the Great Lakes. And the Great Lakes are so great that, believe me, they can look and operate like an ocean. There's no doubt. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. But I didn't know they're surfing there now. And people come from all around. It said to surf in what's being called the Malibu of the Midwest, which turns out to be just a little town I just drove past when I went to my mom's. And it's Sheboygan, for God's sake. Sheboygan on Lake Michigan. I didn't know it was the Malibu of the Midwest. I'm reading it right here. And they're saying the draw is there's huge waves. One wave that reached 28 feet at one point. The downside is surfing in a blizzard adds a degree of difficulty that, all those suntanned surfers in bathing suits in California wouldn't know. But wow, I did not know this. Some of the other great surfing locations are Duluth. Oh God. I bet Lake Superior is that'd be Duluth's water. I bet Lake Superior is the roughest. Michigan following, because those are the two biggest, right? I don't know. Anyway, that blew me away. I had no idea. And, oh God. I have other things. Why do I always do this to myself and to you? I keep shying away from the stuff that is like more, to me, gut-wrenching. And then I end up with it at the end and leave that with you, which is like, you would think after 100 years doing this, I could maybe control myself a little bit more and avoid that. I don't know. I want to, and I hope I don't go on and on. I want to note something that has been so troubling to me. And I don't like speaking about it. There were two issues I used to say when I was doing AM radio, two issues that I found almost impossible to talk about because I was too emotional about both. And it wasn't good radio, to be as emotional as I was. I wasn't as able to just listen and carry on a conversation. And those issues were abortion and Israel. And I really said, please don't, I'm sorry. I just can't. Believe me, I'm following them. I'm involved. My head is there, but my heart is so troubled, is so full. I can't. I just don't want to. But I, like many American Jews right now, are beside ourselves at what's going on in Israel and the potential for an extraordinary rift in worldwide Jewry. We're not a large people. What are there? I don't know. Globally, is there maybe about 12 million of us? Maybe 15 million? I don't think it's much more than that. If you look at, a bar graph with Muslims, Christians, Catholics, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews are like barely make a dent. So there's so few of us. And it's one of the reasons that, we tend to hang together. There's a measure of self-protection involved. But what's going on in Israel right now with Netanyahu and his government and the attempt to literally eviscerate the judiciary, which is the only thing keeping Netanyahu and his racist government in check, has created such Well, I mean, maybe you've read some of it. I mean, even, a Jew like Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York City, presidential candidate, rich guy. He has always been a out there friend of Israel, even friendly relationship with Bibi. And for him to write in the New York Times a warning to Bibi is amazing. I mean, it shows that is something that, oh boy, Michael Bloomberg is writing that Israel is courting disaster and suggesting that he might not be able to support the Israel that Netanyahu envisions. If Michael Bloomberg's feeling that way, I can assure you millions and millions and millions, most American Jews are feeling that way, and it's ripping their hearts out. Thomas Friedman wrote, I think this was in yesterday's paper, right? American Jews, you have to choose sides. And that's something American Jews have always kept among themselves. It's sort of like, it's like if you saw the Chris Rock thing where he got back at Will Smith, his last line was that his mother, black parents always told their kids, you don't fight in front of white people. And that is, again, if you're not a member of a minority, you don't understand that. But you don't want to give them the pleasure of underscoring whatever prejudice and contempt they may have for you. And so Jews keep it among themselves generally, but not with, this is the first time in my life. And my life is the span of Israel. Israel and I were born the same year. Israel was born in 1948. We were both post-World War II babies. And I always took pride in that. It's amazing what's happening there. And it's the best of Israel that is in the streets. It is the people that drive their economy. It's their tech sector. It's the educated. It's legal, media, academic institutions. It's even the reservists. The Air Force is like seeing people saying, I would not take orders from this government. And so we're watching the implosion of what was a source of some pride, immeasurable pride, for a long time. And then, of course, the serious troubles began. And to see what's going on there now, and if you look at the divide among Americans, this will split congregation. I got to tell you, there will be congregations, there will be rabbis that'll be kicked out of their congregations. This is something that is going to have. The former head of the Anti-Defamation League, Abraham Foxman, came out and said, if Netanyahu succeeds with this, I will not be able to support the state of Israel. That is unthinkable, but it's true. And Netanyahu hates us, liberal American Jews, hates us. And it's why he was palsy-walsy with the Republicans. And why he palsy-walsies with the evangelicals, who have his back, because they're racists too. Only, of course, their love for Israel has to do with, having Jesus come back and kill us all. I don't know. I don't understand It is insane. But the fault line in this country amongst Jews breaks down pretty much along the same lines, and not surprisingly, as the Democratic and Republican, the right, the left, does. The implications for Israel, huge, huge. The implications for Jews, huge. At a time when Jews are seeing this, serious upswing in anti-Semitism, for Jews to be divided at a time when there is more danger than there's been in a long time, doesn't bode well. So I have to tell you something I haven't talked about, but it's in my heart, in my head, and making me nuts. Okay? All right, there. I did it. And, okay. I also want to point out something that was in, I see this in this is local, has to do with the train derailment. I just want to get this in. If that train at Norfolk Southern that went off the rails in East Palestine had done the same here in Pittsburgh, in the city, try to imagine the impact. 176,000 people, they think, would have had to be immediately evacuated. And why wouldn't? I mean, there's no reason it wouldn't happen here. This is just, oops, happened there, happened here. I mean, there was a big derailment in about 4 years ago in Station Square. 7 double-decker cars. Now, weren't carrying hazardous, thank God. Otherwise, believe me, you'd remember it. And I found this out, which just freaked me out. Last year, our city council wrapped up negotiations with Norfolk Southern in which the city approved the alteration of 4 bridges in the city with tracks under them. The alterations would raise the bridges, I guess, because it's to allow Norfolk Southern to run double stacked cars under them. So where a derailment it will double the effects of a derailment. And the reality that there is not now a legal requirement for these railroads to notify state officials, hey, thought you might want to know, we're coming through with all kinds of things that'll kill your folks. They don't have to do that now. Unbelievable. Thank God. Okay. I think that's it. I know I'm always telling you what I'm watching and what I like and what I don't. And I should stop because, I had said that this movie, The Banshees of Inisherin, I can't remember how to pronounce it. I loved it. I just thought it was amazing. And a friend was over the other day. As a matter of fact, the same friend I asked to write my obit. Poor dog, poor soul. And I said, did you see them? And she said, oh my God. She hated it. I mean, hated it. Couldn't finish it. Couldn't watch it. So I realized that just because I like something doesn't mean even people who like me are going to like it. So, but the thing I got addicted to in its final season 1 installment is this Sunday, is something I never would have watched but for my son. And that's a lot of what happens is if you got younger folks in your life, they say, yo, you got to watch. So it's this series on HBO that's based on a video game. Yeah. The Last of Us. It is a dystopian video, a game in which, I guess if you're playing the game, you're trying to stay alive after a worldwide pandemic that literally kills almost everybody. And if it doesn't kill you, it turns you into like a crazed, monstrous zombie person, which is so not like anything I would watch. I was riveted, which tells you what? Good writing, great acting will do for you. It's a great storyline. And I just happened to see this guy who I like so much who writes for The Atlantic, Tom Nichols. He tweeted something this morning. I thought, oh, good. This guy I like is in agreement with me. He said, my wife and I watched episode 3 of The Last of Us, and both of us were blown away. One of the best episodes of a television series I have ever seen. Yeah. You don't have to like zombie movies. You don't have to like video games. This is ingenious storytelling and acting. So just saying. And apparently it is making HBO so much money that there will be a season 2. Just telling you, if you haven't tried it, The Last of Us, it's terrifying. And given the fact that we are in a pandemic and imagining what a really, really bad one could be, oh dear, it's a little unsettling. But wow, I thought if death, destruction, and desperately trying to save your life is entertaining, and I'm here to tell you, yes, it can be, then give it a shot. HBO, The Last of Us. That's it. That's the last of me for this week. And I have a problem about Monday. I don't know if I'll be here. I have a laser eye thing I have to do, and I don't know when. They say I have to call tomorrow to find out when I'm going in. And I think those things are so often in the morning. I got a feeling I'm going to get blown out on Monday. I have to have this done. But give it a shot. I might be here. And then for sure, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for sure. I'm telling you, I'm coming apart little by little. So there's these tweaks and it's like I have to be taken into the shop every few days now. Turn a screw here, stick a screw in there, that kind of thing. It's a bitch, but it's okay. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend and I guess the return of winter. Okay? See you Monday or Tuesday.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.